She walked with silence and eyes lowered, as though she knew that no words could change what hearts had already decided. Her mother, Amma, tried to shield her. "My daughter," she would whisper, "the truth hides like the moon behind clouds, but one day it will shine." Yet even Amma's faith was tested. The villagers kept their distance. No one would trade with them. No one would share water. Nula learned to live from what the forest offered: wild fruits, roots, and rain. Despite everything, she had a gentle soul. When the village children threw stones, she would only smile faintly and walk away. There was something powerful about her silence, like she was protecting something far bigger than herself. Then came the day of the drought. For weeks, the sun burned the land mercilessly. The wells turned to dust, and even the elders' prayers seemed to rise and vanish in the heat. The people were desperate. Livestock died, and mothers wept as their children cried for water. Desperation breeds blame, and there was no easier target than Nula. But remember this: when truth speaks, it will not whisper. Those words sent a shiver through the crowd. For a second, no one breathed. Then the chanting began again, louder than before. By midday, Nula was gone. She walked into the wilderness barefoot, with nothing but a small calabash of water and her mother's woven cloth. The earth burned under her feet, and the wind carried the echoes of the village behind her. Still, she didn't look back. For 3 days she wandered. By the third night, her strength failed. She found herself near an ancient baobab tree, its trunk wide and hollow like a gateway to the spirits. Exhausted, she collapsed at its roots and whispered to the stars, "If I am truly cursed, then let the gods take me. But if I carry truth, let it be known." Then she fell silent. The next morning, when the first light broke through the clouds, something strange happened. A cool mist began to rise from the ground. It thickened, swirling around the baobab like breath from the heavens. And then a single drop of water fell onto Nula's face. Each bead carried a memory. Each color carried pain. That night, as the moon rose full and white, Amma made a decision. She would find her daughter. At dawn, she set out with nothing but a walking stick and a gourd of water. The forest loomed vast and endless, whispering with the sounds of birds and hidden spirits. Each step echoed with the rhythm of memory. "Nula," she whispered, "wherever you are, let the wind carry my words." The journey was long, the path twisted through thorny bushes and silent groves. By sunset, she reached the clearing near the baobab. There she stopped, frozen by what she saw. Nula sat on a stone, her hair flowing like black silk, her eyes closed as she hummed softly. Around her, the earth pulsed with green, tiny plants sprouting where her feet touched the soil. The air was cool, alive with light mist. Alma's breath caught in her chest. She wanted to run forward to embrace her daughter, but something held her still, a sense of sacredness. "My child," Amma whispered. Nula opened her eyes slowly. When she saw her mother, a faint smile curved her lips. "You came," she said softly. "I could not stay among those who curse what they do not understand," Amma replied. Tears shimmered in her eyes. "My daughter, what have you become?" Nula looked up toward the sky. "Not what they feared," she said, "but what they forced me to remember." Amma frowned. "Remember when they cast me out?" Nula continued, her voice calm. "I walked with the pain of their hate, but the spirits of the land followed me. The storm that came when I was born was not a cursed dot, it was a mark. The earth listens when I speak, mother. The rain falls when I cry. The wind moves when I sing." Amma fell to her knees, overwhelmed. "Then you are chosen by the ancestors," she whispered, but Nula shook her head gently. "No, Mama, I am chosen by truth." As they spoke, a faint rustle came from the edge of the clearing. Shadows moved. Nula turned sharply, her eyes narrowing. From behind the trees, several villagers appeared, led by Elder Kofi himself. Amma gasped, "They followed me." Kofi raised a trembling hand. "We mean no harm," he said, his voice unsteady. "We came to understand." Nula stood. Her presence seemed to still the air itself. The mist thickened, swirling like silver smoke. You cast me out, she said quietly. Now you come seeking what you once feared. The elder bowed his head. We were blind. We let fear speak for us. Nula studied him, her expression unreadable. Fear is easy, truth is heavy. A silence fell between them, broken only by the chirping of distant crickets. Then an older woman stepped forward, one who had once called Nula evil when her own crops had failed. Her voice shook. Child, forgive us. We did not know what you carried. Nula's eyes softened. You saw the storm, but never the sky behind it. Elder Kofi looked up at her, all creeping into his expression. If you can bring rain, help us once more. The river to the east still runs dry. Our animals thirst. Nula was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I will not bring rain for those who seek it only to wash away their guilt. Her words hung heavy in the air. But, Amar began softly, looking between them, my daughter, mercy is also truth. Let them see the power of forgiveness. Nula turned to her mother. For a long time she said nothing. Then she sighed and stepped forward. Forgiveness does not come from me, she said. It comes from the earth. She knelt beside the soil, pressing her palms into it. Her voice dropped to a whisper, ancient and melodic, like the rhythm of old chants. The ground beneath her shimmered. A low hum spread through the clearing, and the air trembled. Then from the distance, thunder rolled, deep and slow. The villagers fell to their knees. The sky darkened, clouds forming from nowhere. Lightning flashed, not in anger but in promise. And when Nula opened her mouth to sing, her voice carried through the forest like wind made of sorrow and beauty. Her song told of pain and peace, of being cast away and found again, of silence that grows into truth. And as her voice rose, the first raindrops began to fall. But this rain was different. It glowed faintly in the moonlight, cool and soft. In the heart of a quiet village surrounded by whispering trees and endless fields of golden maize, there lived a young woman named Nula. Her eyes carried a strange depth, dark, reflective, almost unsettling to those who dared meet her gaze. From the day she was born, the villagers had whispered that she was different, that she was cursed. It began with the night of her birth. A storm like none had ever seen ripped through the skies. Lightning split an ancient tree near the elder's hut, and the midwife swore the baby cried not like a child, but like thunder itself. The next morning, the river overflowed and washed away 3 farms. The people said, the gods have spoken. That child brings misfortune, and from that day the name Nula was spoken only in caution, never in kindness. As she grew, the whispers became her shadow. When a goat disappeared, they blamed Nula. When a child fell ill, they blamed Nula. When the harvest failed, the elders gathered, their eyes turning toward her hut at the edge of the forest. But Nula never fought back. One evening, as the sky turned crimson, the villagers gathered around the meeting tree. The chief, Elder Kofi, stood before them. His face was lined with age and frustration. Every season, he said, we pay the price for keeping the cursed one among us. The ancestors do not bless a land where misfortune walks freely. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. She must leave, shouted one man. Drive her out before we all perish. Nula's mother begged them to see reason. She is just a girl, she cried, clutching Nula's arm. The rain will come when it must. But the crowd drowned her voice. Fear is louder than truth. The next morning, before the sun had risen, they came for Nula. They didn't touch her, they didn't dare, but they stood in a circle around her hut, chanting old words that reeked of fear and superstition. Leave our land before sunset, said Elder Kofi. Take your curse with you. Nula didn't cry. She only looked at her mother, her expression calm, as though this moment had long been waiting. I will go, she said quietly. Then another and another. Until the rain began to pour. Back in the village, children screamed with joy as rain filled the dry earth. The people danced, laughed, and lifted their hands to the sky. Elder Kofi raised his eyes, tears streaming down his face. The gods have forgiven us, he cried, but not everyone celebrated. Amar looked toward the forest, her heart pounding. She whispered her daughter's name, knowing deep inside that the rain was not forgiveness. It was truth beginning to speak. For 3 days the rain didn't stop. The rivers overflowed once again, just as they had the night Nula was born. The people rejoiced, but the elders were troubled. What if? One of them said quietly, what if it was not the gods we pleased, but the one we cast away? That night, a traveling hunter returned from the forest. He spoke of a woman sitting beneath a great baobab, surrounded by light, the rain falling gently upon her, though the sky above was clear. She was singing, he said, his voice trembling, and the ground beneath her was green with new life. The elders exchanged uneasy looks. The villagers murmured prayers, and Amar, she wept, not from fear but from awe, for she knew that her daughter's silence had finally begun to speak. Days passed, and the stories spread like wildfire. Traders arriving from other villages spoke of a young woman who could summon rain with her presence. Some called her a spirit child, others the daughter of the wind. Meanwhile, in Nula's village, the harvest began to bloom again. The earth drank the rain greedily, and soon the fields glowed with green. The same people who had driven her away now whispered in confusion. One morning, Elder Kofi called for a meeting under the ancient tree. His voice trembled, not with authority this time, but with unease. "We must know," he said, "whether the rain came from mercy or from the power we rejected." The villagers nodded, murmuring nervously. A few spoke softly of dreams they had, visions of Nula standing beside the baobab, her eyes glowing like the moon, her lips moving as though in song. Amar listened in silence, clutching the necklace her daughter had made before leaving. It fell not just on the soil, but on hearts. When her song ended, Nula looked at the villagers. "Now you know," she said, "curses are not born. They are spoken by fearful tongues and carried by empty hearts." The people wept. Even Elder Kofi, once proud, bowed his head and whispered, "May the ancestors forgive us." Nula turned away. "Forgive yourselves first," she said. Amar rushed forward, wrapping her arms around her daughter. For the first time, Nula allowed herself to weep, not from pain, but release. As dawn broke, the villagers returned. Their faces changed. Some carried gifts of fruit. Others knelt in the mud, begging to be allowed near her once more. But Nula simply smiled and said, "Let your hearts be clean. That is enough." When she looked to the horizon, she saw the river glistening again, snaking through the land like a silver thread of life. The earth had forgiven them, even if they had not yet forgiven themselves. And in the stillness of the morning, the truth that had been buried for so long finally began to bloom. Weeks passed after the rain returned, and the village of Reby began to heal. The soil, once cracked like old skin, now shimmered with new life. Flowers bloomed near the riverbanks, and children's laughter replaced the whispers of fear that had once haunted every corner. Yet peace, when born from guilt, is fragile. Though they smiled at Nula's name now, deep inside, some hearts still carried unease. Could a girl they had shunned so cruelly truly forgive them? And what if her power could turn against them one day? Elder Kofi sat beneath the meeting tree, watching the horizon. He had aged more in those few weeks than in all the years before. "We wronged her," he murmured to himself. "But how do you cleanse a sin that deep?" Amar, sitting nearby, replied softly by remembering it. "Forgetting is the first step back to blindness." Her words hung between them like smoke. In the days that followed, the villagers began preparing for the festival of New Reina celebration they once held to thank the ancestors for life's renewal. It had not been celebrated since the drought began. This time, however, every drumbeat seemed to echo with the name of the girl they once cast out. Nula remained by the baobab tree, far from the village's noise. She lived in quiet harmony with the forest. The birds no longer flew away when she approached. Even the animals came near, unafraid. Her mother visited her often, bringing food and news. But Nula never returned home. The soil there still remembers my footsteps of sorrow, she once told Amar. Let me stay where truth feels light. One evening, a group of young girls from the village ventured into the forest, carrying woven baskets of flowers. They had come to see her, the woman of the rain. Their hearts raced with both excitement and fear. When they reached the clearing, Nula was sitting on the ground, drawing symbols in the soil with a smooth stick. Her voice hummed a tune so gentle it made the wind pause. The girls stood frozen until Nula looked up and smiled. Why do you hide behind the trees? The eldest, a brave one named Time, stepped forward. We came to thank you, she said. Our crops grew. Our wells are full again. Nula studied their faces, the innocence, the trembling curiosity, then thanked the earth. Not me, she said gently, but the earth listens to you, Time replied. Can you teach us how to make it listen? For a moment, Nula's eyes darkened with thought. It doesn't listen to words, she said at last. It listens to the heart that speaks them. The girl sat down around her, watching as she drew more symbols. Spirals, lines, circles. These, she explained, are not spells. They are memories written by those who came before. The earth remembers. So do the trees. Every lie we tell, every truth we hide, it all settles here, the youngest girl whispered. Is that why the rain left? Because we lied about you? Nula smiled sadly. Perhaps, or perhaps the rain waited for your hearts to thirst for truth. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky orange and red, the girls gathered their baskets and prepared to leave. But before they did, Time turned back. Will you come to the festival? Everyone wants to see you again. Nula's face softened. Tell them, she said, when the drums speak truth, I will come. The girls nodded, though none truly understood. They ran back to the village, their laughter carrying through the trees. That night, under the silver wash of the moon, Nula sat alone by the baobab. The forest was alive with sound, the crackle of insects, the whisper of leaves. But her heart was restless. She could feel a stirring in the wind, something shifting far beyond the village's joy. Then, from the distance, a scream. It cut through the night like a blade. Nula stood, eyes wide. She closed her eyes, listening. More voices followed. Cries of panic, shouts echoing through the trees. The air trembled. She began to run. When she reached the edge of the village, the sight before her stopped her cold. One of the huts near the river had collapsed, its roof crushed under a fallen branch. The people were gathered around, trying to lift it. Inside, a child's voice whimpered weakly. Without hesitation, Nula rushed forward. The villagers froze, unsure whether to step aside or stop her. She didn't wait for permission. Placing her hands on the wooden beam, she whispered something under her breath. The air stilled. Then, as if the wind itself obeyed her, the heavy beam rolled away on its own. Gasps filled the air as the trapped child was pulled free, coughing but alive. Amar pushed through the crowd, her eyes shining with tears. The spirits protect her, she said. Can you not see? But not everyone felt peace. A man named Dawa, known for his loud words and proud heart, stepped forward. Maybe she caused it, he spat. Maybe she wanted us to see her power again. Nula turned slowly, meeting his gaze. Her eyes were calm, but her voice held the weight of storms. You still see only what fear allows you to. The crowd murmured. Elder Kofi approached, his face pale. Enough, he said. We cannot walk the path of old mistakes. Dora's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. That night, as the village gathered in silence, Nula sat apart. Her mother joined her, holding her hand. Some hearts, Amar whispered, heal slower than the earth. Nula nodded. Truth takes time to bloom. When dawn came, the sky glowed clear again. But deep in her spirit, Nula knew the storm was not yet over. For truth, once awakened, never lets the world rest until every shadow has been faced and somewhere in the distance thunder rumbled softly, like a reminder of what was still to come. The day of the festival of new rain dawned bright and full of promise. The air was heavy with drumming, the rhythmic heartbeat of celebration rolling through the village. Women painted their faces with clay and ash. Children danced with strings of cowrie shells, and men raised palm wine to the skies in gratitude. But amidst the joy, there lingered a question that hummed in every heart. Would Nula come? Elder Kofi stood at the center of the square, leaning on his carved staff. His voice carried over the drums. Today we give thanks to the ancestors, to the earth, and to the truth that saved us. Let this day wash away the sins of our silence. The crowd cheered, but eyes kept darting toward the forest path. Even Dawa, who had doubted her, found his gaze fixed there, unease coiling in his chest. Then, as the drum softened, a wind stirred from the trees. The leaves danced though there was no storm. The rhythm faltered, just for a breath, and then, from the shadows of the forest, she appeared, Nula. She walked slowly, wrapped in a garment of woven fibers the color of rain clouds. Around her neck hung a pendant carved from bone and clay. Her bare feet touched the earth lightly, as if she were part of its breath. The crowd fell silent. The drummers lowered their sticks. Even the wind seemed to bow. She reached the center of the square and turned to the people who had once called her cursed. Her eyes, calm and clear, swept over every face, young and old, guilty and grateful. You called me cursed, she began, her voice low yet carrying to every ear. You said my silence brought death, but it was your fear that did. A shiver moved through the crowd. She continued. When the rain left, you blamed the sky. When truth left, you blamed me. But the earth does not curse, Dot. It reflects. You saw in me what you refused to see in yourselves. A child whimpered softly, clutching his mother's leg. The woman pulled him close, tears welling in her eyes. Napa looked up at the sky. Do you know why the rain returned? She asked quietly. Because I spoke, not to the clouds, but to the truth buried in your hearts. The moment we stop hiding from it, the world listens again. Her words hung in the air like fireflies. Dawa stepped forward, his eyes burning, not with anger now, but shame. We were blind, he said. We were afraid of what we did not understand. Napa met his gaze. Fear is not the enemy, she said softly. It is the mirror that shows us who we are. He bowed his head. Elder Kofi came forward, laying his staff at her feet. We banished you when you were our guide, he said. Forgive us, Nula. Teach us to listen again. The people knelt one by one. The square that had once echoed with insults now filled with the sound of hearts breaking open. Nula closed her eyes, and for a moment the air grew still. Then, faintly, the first drop of rain touched the earth, one, then another, and then the heavens opened, soft and gentle. Blessing, not storm. Children squealed, lifting their faces to the sky. Women laughed and cried all at once. The drummers raised their sticks and began to play again, not for worship, not for fear, but for joy. Amar ran to her daughter, wrapping her arms around her. My child, she whispered, you have given them back their soul. Nula smiled faintly. No, Mama, they found it themselves. I only showed them where it was buried. She turned toward the forest again, rain glistening in her hair. Amar frowned. You're leaving? Nula nodded. The world is wide, and there are other places where truth still hides in shadows. I must go where it calls. Kofi lifted his gaze through the rain. Then go with the blessing of the ancestors, he said, and may the earth always know your footsteps. As she began to walk, the villagers followed her to the edge of the clearing. The forest seemed to open its arms to welcome her home. Before she disappeared among the trees, she paused and looked back one last time. Remember, she said, her voice a whisper and a roar all at once. Truth is not a curse. It is the rain that makes the soul bloom. Then she was gone, vanishing into the green embrace of the forest. Years passed, and the story of Nula became legend. Mothers told it to their children when thunder rolled, Elders spoke her name when the rain returned each season. In time, they built a small shrine beneath the great baobab where she once sat, and every new moon they lit candles there, small flames that flickered in rhythm with the earth's heartbeat. Some said she was still alive, wandering from village to village, carrying her song of truth. Others said she had become one with the wind, her voice hidden in the rain's whisper. But everyone agreed on one thing. The day she opened her mouth, the world learned that silence could be power and truth could heal even the deepest wound. In the heart of the village, where the baobab still stood tall, a carving of her face looked out toward the horizon, calm, wise, and eternal. Beneath it were carved her final words. The earth remembers those who listen. As the sun set and rain fell softly over the land, it was as if the heavens themselves repeated her promise. Gentle, eternal, unbroken, and so they no longer called her cursed, they called her truth.